Hi and welcome. In today's video I'm going to be doing a fridge and freezer declutter. I'm currently 34 weeks pregnant and I need to make some room ready for some batch cooking ahead of baby number 3's arrival. I cannot remember the last time I decluttered the freezer, so I think that's going to be interesting to say the least. I'm firstly going to empty out the fridge, which is behind me here, and then I'll move on to the fridge freezer, which is in the utility. So let's go. Okay, so here we go, removing everything from the fridge. Do you ever look at your fridge and think, I have nothing in there to eat? And then for me, this experience of putting it all out on the kitchen island, and suddenly I was like, wow, that's a lot of food. Also, taking out the trays from the fridge door was actually really hard, like required some serious elbow grease there. A lot of jars of food in here which are definitely past their sell-by date, and also some like really random bits and bobs. Sauces, I like sauces a lot, but then I buy them and then I'm not a big fan of them and they just languish in the fridge for ages. So to do all of the cleaning for the fridge, I just use nothing more than Fairy washing up liquid, and I've got this Dishmatic sort of spongy brush thing, and that's just got Fairy in it too, and that seems to do the trick for cutting down the grease and anything sticky that was in there. I think I worked out, to my shame, that it's actually probably 2 full years of owning that fridge, and I have never taken everything out. So generally speaking, when I do the food shop on the weekend, I go through the fridge and I get rid of anything that is out of date or not using, and I wipe down shelves and trays like one at a time, normally when something has spilled. I'm hoping I'm not alone here and you're watching this thinking, what a dirty so-and-so. But before I put the trays back in the door, I gave the door a wipe down, and then I realised that all of the seal at the bottom of the door had completely come loose. It wasn't even remotely attached, so I had to go along and push all of that back in place. So I was really pleased that I had actually done this, because I'm sure it's not that energy efficient to have a fridge door that isn't sealing properly when it's closed. And we had some issues with it kind of getting a bit too frosted at the back, and some of the fruit and veg were actually like getting frozen and then going bad. So I wonder if that has something to do with it. But in any event, all fixed now and it seems to be working pretty well. Now just taking the glass shelves out, which were not easy to do either, given that there's nothing now in the fridge. You'd think it would be easy, but it wasn't. Gave everything a really good wipe down inside. It wasn't too bad really, the inside of the fridge. Some of the sealing, again, you can see here, I'm just sort of squashing it back in place. Some of the door sealing had come loose as well. So I gave it all a really good wipe down. There was a bit of ice on the back of the fridge. I managed to get most of that off, and now I'm just giving it a good dry with some tea towels. The worst job of cleaning out fridge or freezer, in my opinion, is actually cleaning all the trays and shelves and then getting them dry and back in place. I did put everything back slightly differently, so we were having issues with getting all the milk that we used and I have almond milk and we have orange juice, and none of it seems sort of quite fit in the fridge, so I changed the height of everything, and you can see I've just put a couple of cartons in just to measure up as I'm putting the brackets back in the door, just to make sure that I definitely do have enough height. And now this was a real mission, trying to clean the glass shelves without smashing them on the tap or pouring water down my front. But all I'll say is it's a good job that I wore a black dress, because that hid just the amount of water that I mopped up with my belly as everything was going off the side of the counter. And I don't know about anyone else that are heavily pregnant, whenever I like wash my face at night or brushing my teeth or whatever, always seem to be mopping a counter with my belly at the same time nowadays. And time of editing this video, 35 weeks pregnant, and just seem to go to bed at night with like a soaking wet belly every night. So mistake I made here was I put all of the trays in the door before I put the glass shelves back in, which made it quite tricky, and I did have to take at least one back out again to get all of the shelves in. Just like with the shelves on the door, I did change the height on some of the glass shelves in the fridge as well, and that's been working really well since. Much better actually. It's funny, like even if something's a bit annoying with the height of the fridge, like, you're not going to take everything out and realign shelves just as a like job in itself. I don't know, I'm not, clearly, because I haven't done for the last 2 years, but it seemed like a good opportunity to get things looking a bit better. So now, time for bin bags and the great purge to begin. I say that the great purge, there wasn't a massive purge, to be fair, from the fridge, but more so from the freezer, which I went on to do after. But I did find languishing in the bottom of the produce drawers were some pretty manky vegetables, potatoes that were growing a bit of a forest, and here we have a very yellow broccoli, which is pretty minging. These are the worst to wash up actually, the larger produce trays. We have this little container here that I'm cleaning now that has like a silicone bottom to it, which we use for fruit mostly, and it is pretty good. I think really I should be taking the fruit out of all the packaging and like cleaning it as it comes into the house and then putting it in there, but the reality is I never really have time for that. But the base is a little bit annoying, but it's still quite good. And here are this, I can only see the water coming out. I didn't realise it was not a water dye until a puddle had formed, literally a puddle around my feet. So I inadvertently cleaned the whole of the cupboard fronts here, and then the floor as well, which, being so heavily pregnant, I couldn't get down on my hands and knees and dry, so I was just giving up a tea towel to mop. Also seems to be some sort of chemistry experiment going on with one of these produce drawers, which is pretty gross. I do, generally speaking, wash these every, well, at least every month, and certainly if anything spills or anything in them, then I wash them. So on the whole, the fridge over time is getting cleaned. Just as I said, like, this is the first time in a couple of years I've cleaned everything. I'm absolutely exhausted by this point. I think in total the fridge and freezer declutter and clean took me around about 2.5 to 3 hours. It took me a lot longer than I thought it would. I had said to my husband this will take me about an hour, but then I constantly underestimate how long it will take me to do things. I don't know, I think I'm like Superwoman when it comes to just everything. So finally we're putting things back in, fruit's going back in, bread's going back in, and then as I'm putting things back in, I'm thinking about, have I used it, do I like it, do I need it, is it out of date, and getting rid of a few things there. Anything glass I could empty out, I've put to one side so that I could empty that out later. I'm happy to report that within a couple of days of this project I had washed everything out, put all the glass in the recycling, and it wasn't just sat on the side for ages. But who else has Easter eggs in their fridge at the end of August? Am I the only one? This was actually my boy's Easter egg, and but I had tried a bit of it because you've got to make sure it's safe, and it just tasted really weird. It like gone off with the fridge. I think had been freezing over, and probably because of the seal, which I then realised wasn't quite right. But in any event, I got rid of that Easter egg, and they'll never know. The kids have loads of treats. So finally, we move on to the fridge freezer. Yeah, mostly we have beers and soft drinks in this fridge, but then come like Christmas time or holidays, or if we're entertaining, then we do put food in it as well. But this fridge freezer is particularly neglected. I'm not taking all of the trays out because a couple of reasons. One, that a couple of them are, you can probably tell where they're leaning forward a bit, are a bit broken. This is an older fridge freezer that we've had for quite a while. It's really good, but it is a bit older and it's got a bit of tatty, and I just wasn't sure that all the trays and shelves would survive me taking them out. Also, I was exhausted by this point and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't take everything out. So I started thinking I would take the beers out of the top and wipe down the shelf. I've been super lazy. I actually just wiped the front of that shelf. I wiped the other shelves, and then I 100% wanted to take the bottom produce tray out because we do use that for veggies. If we have like a lot of potatoes or whatever, then they go in there, and that hadn't had a good clean out for a while and it did look grubby. When I took it out, when I could get it out, it was really disgusting underneath. So I have got a sink in the utility, so that's where what I'm using to clean up. But you can see here a close up. It doesn't really show just how bad it was, but this yellow stuff was really thick, really sticky. So I tried with Fairy, tried with the Dishmatic, which kind of has a bit of a scour and has a scraper on the other side. Here I'm just sort of scraping this sticky stuff, and it just was not working. I cut out a bunch of the footage, so I actually tried for a lot longer than this, but I wiped it down because you should never mix your chemicals. So having wiped all of the Fairy suds out, I then went and got the elbow grease. This was really good. I buy it from Poundland. I actually haven't found it in a mainstream supermarket, which is annoying, but it's a really good degreaser. So I still had to use a fair bit of actual elbow grease with the elbow grease, if that makes sense, to clean it up, but it came up so much easier, and like instantly could tell it was a lot better than the Fairy. But otherwise, the only cleaner that I used for this project was the Fairy washing up liquid and just a little bit of the elbow grease for this particular stubborn bit, but it doesn't require serious chemicals anyway, this particular job. So I'm cleaning the tray down in the sink in the utility, so that's all cleaned out as well, and all of the kind of greasy yellow stuff that was on the bottom of it I have managed to get off with the elbow grease, and that looks way better. It looks really good. So now to put some of the drinks back in. There's quite a lot of room in there, as I was in need of going shopping, so we will have filled that back up by now with soft drinks. And also my husband gets a beer delivery, which is what I'm emptying now. That box is sat on the floor of the utility for a couple of weeks. He's actually cancelled the delivery since because he's not been going through it quickly enough, and with baby 3 arriving, I have loads of spare cash. So here are the food items that I took out of the fridge. Mostly a few beverages and sauces that had been in there for a while, and oh my gosh, I'm so tired, I'm so hot now. So this is the first of the 3 freezer trays. There's lots of random food to come out of packaging. Mostly there's milk and ice creams in here, but I found a couple of packets of really old breast milk. Anyone else got packets of breast milk they can't bear to get rid of? The state of this. I have not cleaned the fridge trays out for a long time. It is pretty gross, and I'm going to say lazy. I don't feel at all lazy because at work I've got kids and I'm pregnant and I'm constantly exhausted, but still. I'm not in a routine of cleaning out the fridge or freezer on a regular basis, clearly, which we'll see. I'd like to make some commitments going forward, but and then come back and see me again in 2 years. But yes, packets of breast milk I am keeping for a reason, because I have in my head, once I've finished feeding baby number 3, I'll have a bit of breast milk saved from each feeding journey, and then I want to have like a set of stacking rings, jewellery made with a bit of milk from each journey in, so I have like effectively a separate ring for each child's feeding journey. I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people find that creepy, but if you have breastfed for any length of time and you know the blood, sweat and tears that go into it, I really just feel like I need some sort of memento to celebrate what I've managed, what I've achieved. So this is the largest container out of the freezer, and it's just too big really. Could do with having 4 smaller drawers rather than 3 drawers that the freezer has, but in any event, that's what we're dealing with. I just find things go to the bottom and you forget about them and you never see them again. So I've got rid of quite a lot from this drawer. Now, you can tell how exhausted I was because I filmed the next segment the wrong way up on my camera, which is why it appears as it does. So there were 2 bin bags and a produce bag full to get rid of, and there's a couple of containers here. I just don't know what's in them anymore, they're so old. I have no idea. So I defrosted those and I have emptied those out and cleaned them up, and those containers are now ready for doing some batch cooking. But yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff to actually get rid of. Okay, so the end result, a much better organised fridge, and I've slightly repositioned the shelves here. We weren't actually making much use of this bottle rack, so I put that separately in so we can have sauces on there. And then we've got it all really well organised, fruits and veggies there, breads, sauces, and then we've got yogurts and spreads like jams and cheeses and everything at the top, and space for more food when we go shopping. Okay, the fridge freezer. I'm being very quiet because the kids are asleep now and I forgot to film this properly earlier. So we've got tonic waters, beers, non-alcoholic beers, space for soft drinks when I go shopping in here, and then the freezer, which I'm really happy with. Oh, open the door properly. So much artwork you can't see. Got ice creams and milks and ice, and in this drawer I've sort of tried to file everything. So I've got the meats and vegetarian food on one side, and like fish fingers, etc., and it's all filed so I can see it. I don't have to dig around, and then the veggies are on the other side, and then at the bottom we have mostly got our frozen fruit. Thank you so much for watching. I am absolutely exhausted now, if you can't already tell. I hope this video motivated and inspired you. Please give me a like, it really does help. And also, if you enjoyed this video, I will link for you the video of me decluttering the kitchen. If you like this one, you'll really like that one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! The sky is falling down, yeah. The sky is falling